The finale to Aaron Rodgers' NFL career will be happening in Pittsburgh. It all culminates this 2025 NFL season. It's like a farewell tour because he's playing the NFC North. Pittsburgh's got them all. The Green Bay Packers, a Sunday night game, Chicago Bears in late November, Minnesota out there in Dublin, as well as the Detroit Lions playing all of them. Obviously, one of the main storylines throughout the year, as well as it all starts off week 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are at the Jets to start the 2025 season. The question is, will Pittsburgh be a team that can win a playoff game this year? Don't think it's really, are they going to make the playoffs? The assumption is with Aaron Rodgers, they can do exactly what they did last year with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, like they've done with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph in years previously. But just can they make the next step? They shipped off George Pickens. They did not think that he would be a pivotal part of that team moving forward here, and they leaned on the veteran ability of Aaron Rodgers to be that guy for them next year. I think it's a loss, though, week 1 against the Jets. Justin Fields in a bit of a revenge game against his former team at New York. The stadium's the second biggest for the NFL attendance, about 79,000 screaming Game Green people going nuts. New York, of course, going with offensive line for the second year in a row to shore it up. It's going to be a tough day for TJ Watt and Cam Hayward company. Is Jack Sawyer at that point for Pittsburgh getting playing time? Going to be in that rotation. Who better to learn from, though, than Captain Jack Sawyer, formerly the national champion, than learning from TJ Watt, of course, in that defense. Joey Porter. I think that they get a takeaway or two in this game, that it's 23-20, but there is some leaning on the defensive side of the ball. Look, you've got Queen that you came over from Baltimore a year ago. There's Alex Highsmith, of course. There's Darius Slay, who you picked up in the offseason. I know some of the injuries and the ability from him has been down in the past, but 0-1 to start this season for Pittsburgh and A-Rod. A-Rod certainly remembers the Seattle Seahawks breaking his heart. They had, a 16-0 lead against Seattle. Russ threw 4 picks in that NFC Championship game about 10 years ago. At this point, Green Bay loses in overtime to Seattle. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers going to win. They're at home in their home opener, 20-14. A-Rod's being able to develop a bit of chemistry on the offensive side of the football. DK Metcalf and him are connecting well. Robert Woods, a very cerebral guy, getting him the football. There's Calvin Austin. Remember, Pratt Freiermuth, a huge, 6'7" tight end. And then, of course, running the ball, they're going to be seeing them split time between the backs and Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson, the kid out of Iowa. I think that's going to be similar to what we had seen, the productivity out of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. So a win against the Seahawks, it's going to be Sam Darnold. Jalen Milroe might pose a bit more of the ability to threaten people, but with the weapons like Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp there in Seattle, it seems that it would be a bit more effective to bring in him to play in this game. Maybe some of those Seattle fans are like, why don't we bring him in at some point? It might be frustrated from a lack of offense against that tough Pittsburgh Steelers defense, but do not think that's the game to try to bring Jalen in, except for a few plays. Week 3, New England's improved. I think that a loss there, week 3, might be hated by a number of people. Rodgers gets hit a good amount of times in this game, and that New England's going to be able to flex a little bit on the outside with Kyle Williams, the kid from Washington State, and then Travion Henderson, as fast as just about anybody in the league, save like Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Raheem Mostert, Achane. Just name 4 guys, but those are the fastest players in the NFL. He's probably number 5 at the running back spot, leaning on that. Of course, Will Campbell, the left tackle. The Steelers are going to have a tough time being able to contain that New England offense. And I've got them again with another tough loss against the Vikings in Dublin. If you're a Steeler fan, hold on. It's a tough start to the year getting A-Rod going, but I promise you this thing turns around. Stick with me on the video, or if not, you're just an NFL fan seeing what Pittsburgh, you want to pay attention to Aaron Rodgers. Here we go. A loss to Minnesota. It's a good Vikings team. I think that Addison and Jefferson is the second best duo in the National Football League. For a matter of fact, Addison would be a top target, a number 1 wide receiver for half the teams in the NFL. He's just got a top 2 wide receiver in football right next to him. They've got Hawkinson and Aaron Jones. Like, that offense is humming. So a 13-21 loss against that defense that has frankly played well against Rodgers for a number of years now, with that middle of the team with Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. Of course, they've got Van Ginkel. Defensive side of the ball has been very good for Minnesota. With Bynum, they are opportunistic and take the football away. So before the bye, after coming back from Dublin, the Steelers are 1-3. And look, I've got a loss to the Browns. Don't click off. 23-19, a tough loss. Quinshawn Judkins being able to be productive on the ground, and whoever that Steeler quarterback effort is playing against for the quarterback spot against the Cleveland Browns, it being Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel or Joe Flacco, Pickett, one of those four, we would assume is going to be playing, that it's just a tough one for that defense. Sometimes it happens and you can't show up every week. At that point, of course, we're having Pittsburgh dropping to 1-4, and then things take a shift. On a Thursday night game, make or break against the Bengals, they get a huge Thursday night win, 24-20. This is where DK Metcalf is able to flex because we don't know the uncertainty. So I'm recording this video currently a couple weeks before it's not even August yet. Right now, I myself am in Africa when you're watching this video. So you're watching this, I'm in Africa. I might be talking about certain players that might have been hurt at this point. So I'm talking about them. You're like, why is he talking about them? It's because I'm recording this a couple weeks before. So they may have gotten hurt in the time that I released it, scheduled post, so that way I can keep some momentum going forward towards the NFL season because I will have been in Africa, not able to access and get posts out. So a win against the Bengals, Thursday night game, of course, the best duo likely in the NFL with Higgins and Jamar Chase somehow being able to limit it, keep those guys under 150 yards, get pressure on Joe Burrow. That's the way to do it, is getting through that offensive line, making them run the football to beat you. I don't care if you're rushing 3, dropping 8. Find a way to limit Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and go somewhere else. And is Shamar Stewart at this point and Trey Hendrickson have not been signed. It might be amazing because it might happen in a couple weeks. Like, those guys get signed a month ago, but I was recording this way out in advance to make sure those guys aren't there yet. So, okay, at this point, they're 2-4, heading into a Sunday night game against the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers against the Packers. His Jordan Love's Jedi Master Aaron against the Padawans. The Jedi Master against the Padawan, of course, everything that you want. Packers took Matthew Golden, the first-round wide receiver that Aaron had been pleading for. Please give me a wide receiver. Can I get a guy to throw the ball to besides Devontae Adams? They had Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, Jermichael Finley at tight end, handing the ball off to Eddie Lacy, James Jones, Donald Driver. The Green Bay Packers had so many great wide receivers, but imagine if at some point they decided, like, let's, instead of an O-lineman, maybe defense we keep drafting, we took a wideout. They finally did it for Matthew Golden. When Rodgers wanted a wideout a couple of years ago, they took another quarterback. Shows you how much they liked Aaron there in Green Bay. So that game Sunday night, I think the Packers lose. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers move up. They go to 3-4 on the year. They get a win against Green Bay. I like the defense being able to contain Jordan Love. They're able to play a bit of that man coverage balance with Jones to the point where it's like you need to be a really accurate guy. Like when Pittsburgh plays Baltimore or, of course, Kansas City or Buffalo with quarterbacks that are a bit more accurate in tight windows, that's where they can get hurt. But against a guy like Jordan Love who kind of lofts it in there, the takeaways can come. They can get pressure on him so that he's a bit less accurate throwing the football. And so week 8, a win against the Packers, and they keep it chugging. I've got a shutout. 34-0. They get to 500, and they just shut out the Indianapolis Colts. Is it Richardson? Doesn't matter. Is it Daniel Jones? Doesn't matter. Is it Riley Leonard? I don't care. Pittsburgh's winning that game against the Colts at home. This is a team with a great defense still in Pittsburgh. They're going to get pressure on whatever quarterback that is. If it's Richardson, they're going to run him down. Offensively, going to have Rodgers throwing 2 touchdowns to DK Metcalf and success on the ground. So they move to 4-4 on the year and come up with, I think, their best all-round game of the year against the Chargers on the road at SoFi Sunday night, 26-20, come up with the huge win. We all remember that this is a team in LA with the new coach and Jim Harbaugh that is kind of like Joel Klatt called, it's not my word, a boa constrictor. I love it. They want to run the football, play defense, not turn the ball over or take it away. Who does that sound like? Sounds a heck of a lot like the Pittsburgh Steelers for you fans out there. And this is a tough team to beat, especially next year where they're competing. They're right there with the Kansas City Chiefs competing for the AFC West. But I think a big Sunday night win, maybe it's a Rodgers late game-winning drive where he's able to pull it out. I do have 26-20 written down for that. Metcalf's able to be a factor, and it's evidence that the Chargers are still a year away from being like that Super Bowl contender, that they still can lose those types of games at home. It's not a big home field advantage playing at SoFi. There might be more Pittsburgh Steelers fans at SoFi than there are Chargers fans. Steelers fans are as good as any in the National Football League, and they're going to have a lot of support for that game. At that point, to get over 500 to 5-4, just to get to a tough stretch of the schedule where they lose at home to the Cincinnati Bengals 31-21. It's a limit. Like Jamar Chase, D. Higgins on the outside. You can contain them maybe the first time they play, but these guys get loose 31-21. I think that Rodgers might have like a 250-yard game and have success, and then being able to stop the run. It's just a limit. Joe Burrow has one of those types of games that he has the ability to, and Rodgers just loses in a shootout where he isn't able to produce as many shots as he needs, so to say, to be able to fight back and keep it close. So they dropped to 5-5. Rodgers' last trip to Soldier Field in week 12. The Bears and the Steelers, he's facing Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams' favorite quarterback growing up was Aaron Rodgers. He had talked about this previously, that Aaron was that guy, the ability to move. He's got the athleticism, but also just the arm. Maybe haven't seen as accurate a thrower of the football as Aaron Rodgers. Some of the moxie to him. He's intelligent in the film room. Caleb's got the weapons. Loveland, Kmet, the tight ends. On the outside, a top 5 trio probably in the NFL with Luther Burden now out of the slot, and DJ Moore, put him wherever you want. Rome Odunze, put him wherever you want, and then Swift. That's 6 guys deep of what they have. It's going to be tough for the Steelers to contain that. I think they hold them to 20 points, but struggle to produce a little bit of momentum because of Chicago's terrific secondary. The weak link is most likely Tyreek Stevenson, who still is a very physical corner. He's good in man coverage. You can beat him over the top if you're Metcalf, but most likely they've got safety help behind it with Brisker and Byard in the back end if Brisker for them can stay healthy. Well attuned to that Chicago defense. You got Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards in the middle of that. That's like the biggest week. Like if you have a tight end, if you have Freiermuth, he can be very effective. And then running the football, you might be thinking it's Rodgers' time. You got to run the football to beat the Chicago Bears next year. That is a great secondary, and just it might be a little bit limited for them to do it. So Rodgers playing at Soldier Field and the Chicago Bears one last time, unless like they met in the Super Bowl, doesn't seem all that likely. But it'll be amazing. I will be at this game in November, fired up to go to it. Of course, you can see the Bears stuff in the background, and that's going to be a fun one. I've only seen Rodgers in person once. It was in 2013 when the Bears were playing the Packers for the division. Rodgers was coming back from that broken collarbone injury. The 4th and 8 play, yes. That's how you guys might remember it. And Rodgers rolled out. Julius Peppers came in. John Kuhn with a little chip block. Rodgers found Randall Cobb and broke my heart as well as every Bears fan on the planet. So let's move it along before I start crying. We've got the Buffalo Bills losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh gets a huge win on the year. So at that point, Pittsburgh's able to get back to 500, 6-6. I know I mentioned that Chargers, but at home against Buffalo, you can hear the big wins, and they don't seem so unrealistic. Rodgers versus Josh Allen, 2 of the all-time greats when it's all said and done, going head-to-head, a home game. They limit Josh Allen, James Cook in the red zone. That's where they are so devastating, as Allen's ability on those 3rd, 4th, and shorts with his just run it over like that tush-push of what the Philly does. He's just as good. And then Cook had 18 touchdowns a year ago from them getting into the red zone. They got Kincaid and Dawson Knox. But on the outside, the Steelers, in my opinion, their biggest weakness here, I know they have Darius Slay and Joey Porter, but it's through the seams of that defense. That's where it's tough. Dre Greenlaw is a guy that'll wrap up, but it's a bit more of like the pass coverage where it's tougher for them to be able to pull that strength with Minka being a little bit older. Like that defense, I'm telling you, I'm not saying anything negative. It's just like there's that's the way to beat them. Like those tight ends, Kincaid and Knox, making it difficult on them, but they don't have, like they got Keon Coleman. Like they don't have that huge threat, does Buffalo. And then they, at that point, right, they're 5-6. They get the win 6-6. And then it is a loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Tough stretch there. I mean, you're playing at the Chargers, Bengals, at Chicago, and like that rivalry still type of game. The Bills, and then at Baltimore, 17-22. No shame in this one, got to tell you. Lamar Jackson being able to corral him. Pittsburgh has done it well. He's just a tough matchup. And Derrick Henry being able to stop that man for 4 quarters. If he gets 26, 28 carries in that football game, 22-17, I've got Baltimore being a force once again in the AFC. Lamar Jackson versus Rodgers. What more do you need? Monday Night Football, a huge win for Pittsburgh. I think this gets them to 7-7 on the year, 32-24, and it's a great one. Tua being able to find Tyreek Hill and Waddle on the outside, Achane, and Rodgers able to keep the connection going. He's able to distribute the football. Maybe Robert Woods has a bigger game, and Calvin Austin and Broderick Jones is able to hold up in pass protection in that one, and they're able to get to 7-7 on the year with a win. I've got a loss, and you're like, this is close here now. Are they going to? I've got a loss at the Lions again. Remember the brutal stretch. They lose 17-21 against the Detroit Lions. This is a tough matchup on the road, especially late in the year. You know Detroit's going to want it. Rodgers' last NFC North game of his career, most likely at Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams, one of the most dynamic wide receiver cores in football. Gibbs and Montgomery, Laporta, those 5 guys. Of course, the defense has improved. We know Campbell, we know Brian Branch, Aiden Hutchinson, Joseph in the back end. Like, they are very good in Detroit, a top 3 roster in football, and they dropped to them late in the season, 7-8, but they get a win against the Browns in a messy, maybe there's some sludge and snow and it's wet and icy, 17-7. They get a win against Cleveland. Remember that wet, snowy, icy Thursday night game last year against Cleveland? Well, we get that similar type of thing, but the Browns just don't have that type of guy for the production. They have to lean on the football running game with Quinshon Judkins and can't do it. It winds up a win-and-in scenario where they're playing the Baltimore Ravens, but thankfully Baltimore doesn't need it. They've got the division locked up, and I think whether or not Lamar's playing or not, 24-10, they've got the Ravens at home. I've got Pittsburgh winning that, and in the season finale, Rodgers gets into 9-8, another winning season. That's like, 19 in a row for Mike Tomlin, and they continue that streak. It's just a matter of, was it enough to get Pittsburgh in the playoffs? I don't know that 9-8 would. It might. Teams like the Denver Broncos, Chargers, Bengals are going to be right there, very close. The New England Patriots right there on that ledge at that point. But 9-8 is what I got. Aaron Rodgers' finale season goes out with a bang. So many great matchups to talk about. We're going to continue to do so. Thank you so much for watching this. Let me know in the comments whether you agree that Rodgers is going to have a bit of an up and down year, tough teams, and again, he's older, doesn't have the same mobility he had. The arm strength and ability, snapping that wrist is all still there, but overall, what do you think? Does he have a bit of fall off, or is Pittsburgh going to be 11-6? Like, what does that team end up being? Let me know, and please subscribe, like this video for more content from Blitz with Blender in the future, and I will see you next time. Appreciate you.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blender.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to